Hello, gentlefolk, and welcome to the Knitted Wardrobe. It is an absolute joy to be here with you today. My name is Jenny, and around here somewhere we have Finchley, my cat, who will no doubt come and have a chat with us as well, whilst we talk about all things knitting, knit design, yarn, and today we actually have some new things on the docket to talk about. We're actually going to be talking about some spinning and some sewing and also a beautiful trip that I had this weekend to Cornwall. So if you'd like to join me here in the Knitted Wardrobe, please do grab your hot cold beverage, grab your needles, grab your crochet hooks, grab a blanket, put your feet up on the sofa and join us for the first episode in 2024 of the Knitted Wardrobe. So today, as always, I have Foundation Roasters blend in my cup today. Can't remember which one. It's one of their single origin and it's beautiful. I actually got this mug in Manhattan. I quite like the size of it. I like small cups of coffee that don't get cold. So yes, this is definitely one that I treasure, mainly for the memories of where I got it. It was down somewhere beautiful in Manhattan, and they had the streets closed for a Sunday, and it was a craft fair. And yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got beautiful kind of like blue circles on a very hand thrown. I don't think this is thrown actually. I think it's a pinch pot, but yeah, one of my favourites, and very glad to be sharing coffee with you this morning. I realise that this is a very late introduction to the new year. I actually recorded a video last week and I was all ready to share kind of like thoughts of what's happening to 2024 and kind of like projects that I wanted to get started. And I looked back on the footage and just thought that would not be our proudest moment. So rather than kind of like rush things, because we are all about the slow living and slow fashion here at the Knitted Wardrobe, rather than rush it, I thought I would just take some time away, refresh down in Cornwall and come back to you with today's episode. So welcome to 2024. I don't know where the month has gone. We are 3 weeks into it already, and I just feel like it's all kind of like gone really, really too fast, but it's good to be here with you. I'm really excited about looking at all your whips, all your works in progress over on Instagram, and you can find me there at _knitted_wardrobe. Thank you so much for liking, following, subscribing, doing all the things. It really does make this whole thing happen. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to crack on with more creations with you here on YouTube and over on Instagram. And if you want to go to theknittedwardrobe.com, you can also sign up to the hopefully weekly newsletter called The Knitted Journal, where I share the behind the scenes and what's going on behind the design space here at the Knitted Wardrobe. So yeah, I'm very excited to share all of that with you. But yeah, 2024 is going whizzing by already. And I see so many people who have cast on already and cast off their projects, and some really quick knits happening, which is kind of daunting to me, who's quite a slow knitter. I definitely take my time with projects. And I don't know if I've ever spoken about it here on the podcast. I know I have done over on Instagram. But I knit around about 4 or 5 sweaters a year on a really good year. Sometimes I may knit 2 or 3. And hats and scarves, they come and go as well. Shawls, I will always knit a couple a year because I love a shawl. I love kind of like snuggling up in them. But yeah, my knitting is actually quite slow, and I can feel quite overwhelmed when I look at the Instagram feeds with the larger designers when they're just kind of like coming out with new designs each month. So here at the Knitted Wardrobe, I'm very happy to release every equinox and solstice. So our next one is coming up a bit later than the spring equinox. We're releasing in April this year. And if you've been following me along, following along with me even, you'll know that we're deep in the depths of designing the rock pool shawl, which is the first thing that we'll be talking about today. So, the rock pool shawl. I have to say, when I look back at kind of like the design process of anything, it always amazes me how far ideas have come, and yeah, I'm very excited about it. And it's also at a really good place to share with you how it's all going, what we're thinking about, and what's happening with the test knits, which is really exciting. So first things first, if you haven't been here with me before, I'd like to introduce you to a thing that helps with design, which is sketch knitting. So this was the first ever sketch knit I did of the sand section of the rock pool shawl. And I always sketch knit on cream yarn because it means that I'm not dedicated to a colour just then. I tend to design with structure and texture, and rather than have a colour in mind, I'll usually go for a pattern. So, and I know some designers do it the other way around, which is wonderful. I love how we're all different. But this is the first thing that ever came off the needles for the rock pool shawl. And then it kind of like migrated through a few times, and then when I say we, I mean Finchley and I, my cat. And then we came to the point where I was able to kind of like put it on some colour, but this wasn't the final choice. But I did the sound section, and then I was able to start working out the ripple for the wave. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, because we're going from sound to wave to seagrass to rock in the rock pool shawl. And I just thought, yeah, that was really good. And I had got to that point, and then I thought, oh, not quite sure about how I want to fade the ripple effect with the sand. And so I shoved it on some more sketch knitting, which looks really awful. It's still on the needles. I didn't even finish it because it gave me the information I needed. But I was able to start working on fading the ripples, not only from the colour of yarn over 20 yarns, 20 rows, but I was also able to fade the pattern in. So by the time you've faded the colour over 20 rows, you've also faded the pattern in, so you don't get one kind of like solid block of ripple waves. You get kind of like this lovely faded effect, which I was really pleased about. And at that point I thought, right, this can now get onto paper, and kind of, well, when I say paper, I kind of mean a Google Doc. And I actually started writing it out and getting all my cheat sheets. As a designer, you always need your maths there. So I got all the maths sorted out and put on Google Docs. And I was able to cast on my final kind of like shawl. I think this is about the third one now, and really enjoy the process of getting it all together. And also get the test knit crew organised with their yarn support. And so, yeah, just wanted to talk about that really. As you will know, if you've been following for a while, I'm keeping the rock pool shawl in my Eldenwood craft bag. I love this sheep. It just sits on my desk and makes me happy. It's by Emma. She's a really great maker, and she makes all her bags from scratch. Pockets in there, really good handle. I just love this. It came down to Cornwall with me this weekend, and it was just great. But at the moment, I am just about to fade from wave to seagrass on my final choice. And here we can see where it's all going. So this colour here is called Dawn Haze by Hannah at the Camel Yarn. And this is Merizian, which is the wave effect. And I just think they're beautiful together. And every time I see it, I just get really happy. So we've done quite a heavy section for the sand for the first section. And then we've done a more gentle wave repeat for this second section in the shawl. And it's because rock pools don't have much water in. They're quite gentle, a lot of them. And so having a deep wave section didn't really suit the story to it of the pattern that well. So the wave repeat is actually only over a small section. And then we are going into this, which is Cape Cornwall. All these are by Camel yarns, hand dyed by Hannah. And this is the seaweed and seagrass section of the shawl, which will be a bit heavier than the wave section. And then we go into Spiral Rack, which is our rock section. And I'm just really happy with the yarn choices. I was looking through the sketchbook the other day that has all my samples. And I have these. These are the Maker's Journals by Merchant and Mills, and all my pattern designs go into here. And I was just looking at the colour fades for the choice of yarns again. And I was just like, yeah, they're going to really work and they're going to look beautiful. So these were the original colours. So you've got there the Dawn Haze into the Merizian and Merizian into Cape Cornwall. And yeah, I think those colour fades are just beautiful. I'm very happy with them. And yeah, they go that way. And yeah, I think from the initial kind of like sketch that I did for the pattern, which was this, I'm just really over the moon for it. So this was the original, I've stuck it in this journal, original sketch that I did on the back of, what did I do this on? I think it was just some sketchbook paper that I was doodling on over a coffee in Gales, actually. And I thought, no, that's it. So we've got the loop pattern, we've got the riffle pattern, the drop stitch pattern for the lace, and then short rows of stocking stitch for the rocks. I've changed that slightly, which you always should do as a designer, just be open to change. And when I got back from that coffee section, I did a really rough kind of like watercolour palette of what I wanted for the colours, and Hannah and I worked off this. It looks appalling, and I'm totally okay with that. And I hope this kind of like takes, sharing these really rough sketches, I really hope it takes the pressure off you if you want to design your own stuff at home. It's not all pretty, it's not all Instagrammable, but yeah, this is definitely the first original workings of the Rockpool shawl. And even down to kind of like the rough sketches for the charts that I keep. Again, this was in a coffee shop, it's never, I think when we see everything on social media, it's really kind of like, oh, perfect. We all know it's not, but this really isn't. So I just got kind of like some squared paper notebooks and sat there working out some maths that didn't work. And I like keeping the stuff that didn't work because it reminds me why it didn't work. And yeah, if we look at the original kind of like Stitch Mastery chart for the sand, this one needed some work, but I still kept it because it's got some notes on there that reminds me for next time I design what to avoid, what not to. Got loads of kind of like sketch work, and when I'm knitting and designing at the same time, I will knit a row and then I will also kind of like write it as I go. So I'll literally kind of like knit 3, write it K3, and then K2 tog times 3, close brackets, and all of that is written down and as I write. So it's a slower process than I know a lot of designers use. Some people can just sit there with an Excel spreadsheet and hammer it out. But I'm definitely kind of like a much more process designer, which is really good for me. I found something that works. Then I'll get it onto a Stitch Mastery rough. This is really rough. Get it all wrong and then edit on there. And then I'll send this to my tech editor, Rachel Prest, who will then completely reconfigure Stitch Mastery. But it gives a jumping off point for our conversation together more than any answers that we have about the pattern or any directives that I have. It's more of a concept because it's usually wrong. I'm not great on Stitch Mastery. I'm much better at writing. It's funny, actually, I'm better at writing my design out than I am charting it, but I am better knitting with a chart. So go figure. That's just a creative brain right there. But yes, that's the Rockpool shawl. Where are we at with the Test Knit crew? The Test Knit crew are amazing, and I will link all of their Instagram pages below. There's 5 of them, which is fantastic, and they are mainly based in the UK, which is brilliant. And they are being sent their yarn support this week. So by the time you guys see this, it will all have been posted and it will be getting to the people who need it. It's been a real privilege to be able to yarn support this design. They're all getting 4 skeins, full skeins of Hannah's work. So they get the Dawn Haze, they get the Merizian, Cape Cornwall and Spiral Rack. And we're using the Comfort fingering, and it is 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk and 10% cashmere. And it is like knitting on angel hair. I was able to give Bronwyn her yarn when I met her for the first time in Cornwall in Falmouth this week. And it was just like, she opened it and it was like, her face was just like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's like, yeah, I know. And it's so light and the drape is just beautiful. So I'm very happy with the yarn choice for this. And it's like, it will be like wearing a cloud. I was a bit, when I wanted to publish this in the spring, I was thinking, oh, a shawl in spring, is it going to be too warm? Is it going to be too cool? It's lace. I was a bit concerned it wasn't, but actually this is such a great transitional shawl between winter and spring and then summer into autumn. I think it's going to be beautiful. I would actually love to see it on DK weight, which again will be a lot heavier than the 4-ply. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the fades. And by next time you'll see it, no doubt it will be much more finished than it is today. And I actually had a revelation this weekend, which I wanted to share with you, which is about sample knitting, which I want to talk about next. So I hope your hot cold beverage is keeping you comfortable and hydrated, or not in my case. Neat caffeine is always a good thing. But I wanted to talk about sample knitting because I originally didn't quite know how it all works when I got into kind of like test knitting for designers. I didn't quite know what the difference between test knitting and sample knitting is. And there is a huge difference, and one that I thought I would talk about now because it comes into the design process conversation, which is always quite interesting, especially if you're here for the Knitted Wardrobe. This podcast and it's always been about kind of like what goes on behind the design process, as well as what I'm knitting and everything else. So sit back, relax, and let me natter about this one. So test knitting is where you apply to a designer, and often you will supply your own yarn and you'll get the pattern given to you before it's released, and your job as a test knitter is to kind of like knit it to the size that the designer needs sometimes, or the size that you want to knit, based off the gauge swatch and all the rest of it. And it's to make sure that the pattern works. So when you take it on as a test knitter, you know that it's not always going to be correct. So you have to be quite open to be able to give comments and feedback to your designer in a really constructive, very kind way, and just kind of like pick up anything that they and their tech editor may have missed or could rephrase, whether there's a stitch that's out or if you need to add another place marker, which definitely happened in the Cornish Path sweater. I hadn't put enough place markers in for a couple of my test knitters, so actually we were able to add that in for ease of read and ease of knit for other people. I had presumed that people would just be okay with counting, and actually a couple of people said actually place markers really helped. So that was a great example of kind of like me as a designer presuming and then hearing back from my test knitters and correcting that, which is a small thing out of many things that changed, but it all adds up to a really great story. So test knitters, definitely, I don't feel that I would be able to publish a pattern confidently without my test knitters. I have made it a part of the knitted wardrobe to make sure that we can yarn support any pattern that we produce. So those test knitters are sent the full yarn package that they need from the yarn dyer and suppliers that I have designed with. So, for example, if I'm designing with Anton's raw wool, which comes from Cornwall, then I will be supplying Anton's raw wool to my test knitters, which is great. Then we come to sample knitting. And for the Cornish path sweater, I actually knitted 3 full sweaters for that, which meant that a lot of my time last year was taken up knitting one pattern, which was time consuming, but also it stopped me from doing more on the design and more stuff outside the knitted wardrobe and my day job, and kind of like cut in way too much into my other life. And so this time I was driving back from Cornwall and thinking, I've really got to work out my time management better, because the Rockpool shawl, I'm now knitting the 3rd version of that, and I just need some help with kind of like knitting the projects for the photographs to be taken on time so we can publish on time. So I've actually got in touch with a couple of people about sample knitting. Sample knitting is a bit different from test knitting because it has to be done within an agreed turnover time. And I send the yarn to them, just as with the test knitters, and I also pay them for their knitting time, and they send me the sample knit afterwards. So it's a bit more involved, it's a bit quicker, and it means that I get the shawl or cardigan or sweater at the end that I can use for all the photos, and it will be there for me. So I've then got, say, a month where I'm not having to worry about getting a photo ready sample, and I can then use that on all the marketing, which is fantastic. At first, when I first heard about it, I felt it was cheating, but actually, I don't feel as a designer you've got the time to do all the things. And when you are a self-publishing designer, you have to do all the things. So it's working out what's valuable to you, what you can ask other people to help with, and then delivering on the time that you agreed to deliver. And this week, for example, I really need to get the Rockpool shawl to Rachel, my tech editor, and I absolutely do not have time for any knitting to do that by Friday, and I'm already 2 weeks late on the agreed schedule. So to be able to say I'm not knitting the shawl this week, I am actually writing, and not have to stress about that has actually really freed me up to enjoy the process more. So yeah, I don't think it's cheating at all. I'm just really pleased that we're able to support more people in the knitting community, to be honest. So that's fantastic. So if you ever want to know about the difference between test and sample knitting, that is it. That's just where we're at. And I'm very happy that the knitted wardrobe is able to use both skill sets to help grow the patterns and to publish on time, which is fantastic. But enough about the Rockpool shawl. Today we've also got some lovely yarn stuff we're going to be talking about, and some yarn haul. So let's get into some yarn that I bought down in Cornwall. So if you have been following me on Instagram, you will know that I spent this weekend down in Falmouth. Falmouth is a very dear town to me, and I loved going down there. I had a great walk on Sunday between Mounporth and Swanpool and back. It was a lovely just 3-mile coastal walk, which just really knocks the cobwebs out. It's very cold here in England at the moment. I think we're down to -5 today. It wasn't that cold on my walk, but it definitely had the wind chill coming off the sea. But it was lovely to be able to kind of like go down to Falmouth, spend 3 days down there and do all the things. So yeah, very happy about that. But the best thing was Saturday morning, when I met up with Anton from Royal Wool. I met up with Emily from EOT Ceramics. If you haven't found her work, then she's just the most amazing ceramicist. Go check her out. She'll be definitely linked below. And also Bronwyn, who is test knitting for me and hopefully sample knitting as well. So Bronwyn is an amazing knitter and she has done some incredible knits. So go follow her on Instagram. But yeah, it was a wonderful time. We really missed Tanya from Boscastle Yarn, whose car sadly died the day before. But yeah, we had a fantastic time at Stone's Bakery in Falmouth. Sat down for 2.5 hours. Bless him, Anton had a chest infection, which he was just an absolute rock star for being there. And we just knitted, hung out, had a chat, talked about all things yarn and all things Falmouth, all things Cornwall. And it was just an absolute joy to be with them. I think one of the best things about the Knitted Wardrobe has been the knit ups and meeting all of you guys. So thank you for being part of this community. And hopefully we get to meet more often over the next few weeks, months, years as we go on. But part of the wonderfulness of Falmouth is also Stitches and Cream. And I got some yarn haul after our knit up. And Emily, whose private account, has the best photos of Ernie, her cat, but also her knitting. She was knitting a wonderful, I think it was one of the... I think it was part of the Petite Knit range. She was doing a great sweater. She's been knitting quite a lot lately. And Anton was working on a scarf that he's got. So it's a beautiful colour work and with I-cords and pickup loops, and it's all beautiful. It's in a mustard and blue. Emily's was in a grey, and Bronwyn cast on a swatch, which was fantastic. So we all had our knitting out and it was great. But after we had met up, I went to Stitches and Cream, and sadly, Jane wasn't there. Jane runs Stitches and Cream, and she was off at watching ABBA in London, which was fair enough, to be honest. But it was a shame to miss her. But her staff there were just beautiful. We had a great time talking about winter surfing and, yeah, how cold it was in the water. But whilst I was there, I picked up some new yarn. The first being this lovely little pile. Ooh, she says, trying not to drop it. This is 3 balls of yarn, 5 balls of yarn even, from Nellie and Eve. I've been looking at their Instagram account for months thinking I really, really want to order some of that. But whenever I go on their website, for some reason they're out of stock. So finding this down in Falmouth was an absolute dream. I'm going to put the yarn bowl down. It's actually filled with acorns as well, which is just lovely. But yeah, Nellie and Eve. And this is their 50/50 Dales yarn, and it's a 4-ply. Again, I seem to be on a 4-ply roll at the moment. It's 5 balls of 200 grams, so it's 100 grams in total, and around about 450 meters in total. And it's 50% Blueface Leicester, and it's 50% Masham, and it's from the UK, and it's the colour range Autumn. So it's beautiful. I believe it says here, colours inspired by the landscape and seasons of a Welsh mountain, hand dyed in West Wales, nellieandeve.com. The reason I love this so much is because the rock pool has really got me into the fade thing. I thought I'd actually make a faded hat. I'm going to use these 2 as a fisherman's brim thing. Brim. We'll go with brim. And that's my standard kind of like brim for a hat. I love a 2-tone fisherman's rib for a hat. And this one will be quite subtle. You've got that brighter green with the darker green there. And because they sit quite well together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fade with these 3. And although the top 2 look quite similar on camera, there is a bit of a difference. I was debating kind of like fading that way, but I'm gunning more for that one, I think. Having the darker one on top and mid-tone and a light tone there, and just fading all the way through. I've got more than enough yarn to do that. So yes, it'll look, that's the way I'm going with it. So yeah, that's the way I'm going with it. And I think it'll look beautiful. Very happy with that. But yeah, it's beautifully soft. When I first saw it, I thought, is that going to be too itchy for a hat? I'm very good with wool. I don't get itch factor. And what I have found with wool producers and yarn dyers is that they're using higher quality of yarn for the smaller hand dyers, at least. And it's just so soft. And I'm finding more and more over the last 20 years of knitting that yarn, that wool, like raw wool, non-superwashed, beautiful wool, is a lot less itchy than it was back in the day. I think wool gets a bad rep for being scratchy. And I think that's definitely of a time before. I don't think that's what we have now. So yeah, it's definitely hat worthy as far as I'm concerned. I'm very happy with it and looking forward to it. So yeah, that will be a faded hat, and I will probably put a tassel on it. I did buy a pom-pom from Toft, which is actually in the other room. It's looking at me now. It's a toffee coloured one. I may use that, but I may put a tassel on it. So I will finish it and then work it out. But I'm actually thinking of writing this up as a small little pattern and just popping it on the Knitted Wardrobe website in the autumn. So hopefully that will just be a really neat little project that I can do. I was also there, and when I walked into the shop, it just called to me. So if you've been following a while, you'll know that I have this one pink sweater that I held two-tone. I'll try and get a picture up here somewhere. It's two-tone. It's Cake Plate by Plucky Knitter. And it's also in Sansa by Labby Anime, and they were both merino singles, I think. It's great, and I called it the sweater with no name because it's such a boring stockinette knit. It's bottom up, and it's just my most boring roll neck, bog standard raglan sweater. And it's just like, I can knit one up in about 3 weeks of evening knitting. It's a no-brainer, and I have been craving some stockinette lately. I've got the tumbling leaves sweater on the needles, which is fantastic, but it's kind of like colour work, 4-ply, and in the evenings I can't see it properly, so it's definitely still in its little kind of like project bag. I've got the rock wool shawl at the moment, which is fantastic, but it does feel a bit like work. And a lot of lace, a lot of fading, a lot of maths. I just wanted some stockinette, so I treated myself to this. Oh my God, it's beautiful. It is so vibrant. I love the green. I don't tend to go for green, but I seem to be going for green quite a lot at the moment. And it's definitely a colour that I was not expecting to be in my wardrobe quite so heavily, but it's beautiful. And it is by John Arbon Textiles. So I love John Arbon. I love what they do. And they've worked with a lot of people that I know. So Rachel Prest, my tech editor, runs Cat and Sparrow, and they've definitely done some yarn with her. And also Telling Yarns with Beth, who dyed my Tumbling Leaves colour work yarn. What was it? I'm just looking at my yarn stash. Molly at the Burrow, that was John Arbon. But yeah, this is their textiles, and it's the Harvest Hues. And this is in burdock, and this is batch 23/197. And it's a light Aran or worsted, and it's a 30% Blueface Leicester, 30% Falklands Merino, and 33% Zwart Bales. Zwart Bales? Anyway, so it's a worsted count, they're putting it this, and it's a 200 metre per 100 gram skein, and it is soft. It's not super soft, but it's certainly not scratchy, and it's probably the same. It is the same kind of feel as the Nelly and Eve. So around my neck, it's not going to be a problem at all, and that colour is just to die for. So I certainly wasn't expecting to come out with a sweater quantity of this. I think 1,000 metres is going to be okay. It may end up cropped, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm thinking kind of like with a high-waisted pair of jeans or a skirt probably, it will look quite cute. And yeah, very happy with that. I always end up kind of like scratching my nose throughout this podcast because the amount of fibre that gets kind of like around me is quite intense. So yeah, anyway, so I'm very happy with this. Thank you to Stitches and Cream for just supply. When you walk in there, you're just greeted with the most amazing yarns by people who dye, small batch dyers, a lot of them, UK producers, really great on the non-superwashed. If you're looking for a supplier that really looks at non-superwashed raw wool as their core base, they have other stuff there as well, obviously, but I just love the fact that they're supporting the UK producers. And yeah, we're just getting a bit lower on the plastic footprint of knitting. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I'm very happy to have that in my stash. I very rarely buy yarn for me anymore, and I realised that actually I needed something for me. So the Tumbling Leaf sweater and that one, I think they're going to be great for this coming autumn. That green is going to look fantastic come September, October, November. It's just going to look great. So now I would like to get on to a couple of things that came my way over Christmas, which feels a long time ago now. But yes, I want to talk about some winning. I would like to talk about some spinning and some weaving. So over at the day job, I have some beautiful clients, and I was saying goodbye to one of them for a while because they're going traveling, and we were just having a general conversation about kind of like, see you in a few months, you're absolutely good to go, we'll get back to your rehab when you come back, it's great, have a great time. And she said, oh, have you got any holidays booked in? And I said, oh, I've just booked 2 days with Bex at the Woven Briar in June, and she's going to teach me how to spin. And she said, what, like a bicycle? And I said, no, like yarn, like with sheep fibre, and I spin it and then I knit it. And she said, do you have a spinning wheel? And I said, no, I don't. And she said, oh, right, and we said goodbye. And then a couple of days later, I get this email saying, I have a spinning wheel for you. And my neighbour was tidying out her house, and because she's downsizing to go to a care home, would you like it? It's yours if you would like it. And I was just like, oh my word, I'll get a photo of it here for you. It's actually sitting next to me right here. And I picked it up. It's in pretty good nick. I'm not going to lie, I haven't tried it because I don't know what the frick I'm doing. But it has been an absolute joy to kind of like to have it just here. I gave it a really good beeswax, and I'm taking it down to my local spinning wheel maintenance guy in February, and he's going to sit me down for a couple of hours and just teach me the basics. So in February, I'm going to take the spinning wheel, which is now called Penny, taking Penny down to the maintenance guy in my local town, and he's going to teach me how to basically look after it and show me around the wheel. As far as I can work out, spinners and knitters seem to have a very dark sense of humour, because all I can pick up from YouTube is that there are a lot of maidens and a lot of orifices on this thing, and I'll be spinning fingering weights yarns. So go get that. It still makes me giggle. But yeah, penny is beautiful, and I looked up on the Ashford website, and according to that, I think this is a 1970s spinning wheel, just based on the statistics that they give on the site. So should be quite easy to maintain. It's really simple. It's quite small. It definitely fits in the back of my car. And I'm looking forward to that. I was talking to Emily in Falmouth, and she was talking about the spinners guilds down there, and I'm really keen to search out the guilds once I've been to visit Bex at the Woven Briar in her lovely barn in Somerset, and she's taught me how to get started. So although I'm waiting until June for that, I'm really, really looking forward to getting started with that. And I'm also going to record kind of like the process of getting to know Penny here on YouTube. So when we go down to get her fixed and maintained and all of that, I will be taking you along with me. So yeah, really excited about that one. So this time last year, I spent some time with my great friend Caroline Tovey. Go check out her Instagram account. She's an amazing weaver, and she's been a long-standing friend. She's just an adorable human being. Life is always better with Caroline in it. And she introduced me to weaving. And at that time, it was just, I had so much going on. It was just too overwhelming. And she lent me her table loom, which was so generous. And sadly, I didn't actually have the time or the headspace to practice with it. So I had to give it back to her. But I thought that weaving was out of my life for a while. And that made me sad, because actually I really love it. But I was gifted for Christmas a wonderful gift, which is, I think these are called a lap loom. And I still don't know how this works yet, but I'm looking forward to getting on it, because I had the Advent calendar from Hannah at the Camel Yarn, which if you saw my 3 vlogmases, which I totally failed at here on YouTube Shorts, not doing that again, you'll know that I had the Advents from her. And on Instagram, one of her Advents kitters actually wove a beautiful scarf with the yarn that she was sent. And it really inspired me to use this as a chance to start weaving with the Advent knits, Advent kit, and see what I can make. I actually have a kind of an idea in mind of making blocks of weaving and then sewing them together and making, I don't know, a little something for the living room. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this, because I think it's great. It's a phenomenal gift, really kind, and it's just big enough to not overwhelm me. I can't make anything bigger than this size on it. So phenomenal for placemats, that kind of thing. And we'll just see how we go. Maybe by the end of the year, I'll be completely addicted to weaving and I'll be able to kind of think about getting a bigger loom. But for now, this is just ideal size. I'm very excited about it and looking forward to seeing what I can create with this. So yeah, spinning and weaving, 2 very new things for me, and I'm very excited to have them in my life. The Advent kit that I was going to make into a quilted blanket with Lauren Penrose's Stella quilt cushion has slightly changed over the last month since you and I last caught up. Future projects are looming large in my life at the moment, and I have to say it's really freed me to know that I don't have to worry about sample knitting anymore, and it's kind of I've been able to get some headspace. But future projects, There's quite a big one coming up with Lauren Penrose's Stella Quilt cushion being turned into a blanket. She actually reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be on a preview knit group for her blankets, which I'm really, really excited about. I applied for it and I have an email ready to open, and I've been too nervous to open it, so I will do that today. But hopefully I've been chosen for that. But what I've decided to do with the Advent kit that I got from Hannah, the yarn is actually, it's a 4-ply. And for the size of blanket that I want, I actually took a step back and I thought, Jen, just get it together. You need a DK and just make your life easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my favourite colours from the Advent. And I know Hannah is already dyeing up the colours that were in that kit as standalone colours for this coming year. She had it on her Instagram that she's also doing Advent, so the seasonal kits throughout the year. So if you wanted, say, the Moorland or the Coastal, you can order that kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to order the middle two that were I think it was Meadow and Coastal, and I'm going to order those 8 skeins of that and 8 skeins of blank canvas, which is her like cream to pink, which complements those colours really well. And I'm going to do a king size blanket over the next millennia in those, which I think is much better. So the quilt is still definitely there, but I think the size of it and the enormity of the project, as well as the kind of like realistic look at weights of yarn, I think rather than do a fingering weight, I'm going to be doing a DK, which just made my heart kind of go, whoa, we're going to be okay. And in the Stella Quilt cushion pattern, it's going to look great. So I'm very excited for that. And I'm very glad I changed my mind about it. And very happy with that decision. But we've also got another project that is coming up, which is some sewing, which is really cool. So back in the day when I was trying to work out what to do with kind of like my wardrobe, I decided that I wanted to make the vast majority of the clothes that I made. And I was getting really good at sewing. And then last year, the knitted wardrobe kind of like overtook that time that I had to make my own clothes. So I'm kind of desperate right now. I definitely need to update my wardrobe. So the first one I'm going to do is the Shepherd skirt by Merchant & Mills. I've actually had this pattern since it came out, which must be about 2 years ago now. It's a lovely kind of like just simple pleated skirt with side pockets, and its closures are actually at the sides with buttons. And I have enough fabric in a very similar blue to this to get cracking with it. I also have enough of an ecru denim to get a pair of Eve trousers, which I've made so many patterns. Well, I've made so many versions of that I could probably do it in my sleep. And the Eve trousers are one of those patterns where you think, at what point is it Merchant & Mills and at what point is it me? Because it's been redrafted so many times to get the perfect fit. It was kind of like, once you put my pattern on top of the original, there has absolutely nothing in common, but it is the Eve trousers, and I kind of love them. So I'm going to make another pattern of them. And I'm also going to make some dresses this year. I kind of want to get away from trousers. So starting with the skirt and one pair of Eve trousers, and then getting into more dresses this year is definitely the way I want to go. So this will be cut out over the next couple of weeks. I've already done the calico toile for it, and it looks okay actually. I'm a size, with Merchant & Mills, their sizing is generous. So for example, their September coat, normally I'm a 10. I would go down to 8, and I actually nipped that into I actually ended up taking in quite a bit on the waist just to give it a little bit of a shape rather than just making it look boxed. But I think that's the joy of sewing and knitting. You can kind of like create your own your own style from the patterns that you purchase, and you can also kind of like make them fit you, which is the dream, right? So I think I know I'll be making this in a lovely blue linen tinsel, which is an amazing drape. But what I would like to do is knit a very simple tank top to go with this in cream. So it'll be a nice kind of like cream on the top, blue on the bottom, with a pair of Birkenstocks, because Birks and Bloods, they're kind of like the only shoes I live in. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. So there's going to be some sewing on the agenda for me over the next few weeks. And yeah, so those are the future projects really that I'm really looking forward to. And I've also got some embroidery on the hoop at the moment, so maybe I'll share that with you next time. But I don't want to get too far away from the knitting, which is why we're here. But yes, with spinning and weaving, it's really lovely to be able to draw more of the fibre arts into my pleasure time with kind of like my hobbies, and allow the knitting to be both my pleasure time with my own personal projects, as well as kind of like the knitted wardrobe with the designs. And yeah, I'm just finding a real peace with that at the moment, which was needed. And I'm just so thankful to the team that we have behind the knitted wardrobe that is making all of this happen. So yeah, and thank you so much for being here and joining the ride. Of course, you can like, join, subscribe, do the thing, share down below. That would be fantastic. And we are hopefully getting to 1,000 in the next couple of weeks and months. 1,000 subscribers would be fantastic, because then we get to do our yarn giveaway, which if you haven't heard about, go to the last episode and you can hear all about that, because we have 3 skeins of the wool barn to give away, and we also have 3 copies of the Bay Tree Studios Equinox cowl to give away for our 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Cannot wait. So yes, hopefully next time we'll be able to catch up a little bit more and let you know what's going on behind the scenes here at the Knitted Wardrobe. Finchley is asleep. I was hoping he was going to make kind of like an entrance, but he's just sleeping on the chair opposite with me, and I really don't want to wake him up. But yes, thank you for joining us here. I hope you've had a great time. I look forward to hearing all about your news, all about your whips, what's going on in your life, which books you're reading. If you want a bit more of this kind of stuff, join us on Monday mornings at the Knitted Wardrobe on Instagram. We meet up every Monday at 10:30 for coffee, and then later you can catch up on the grid if you miss us live. But we talk about all the things for the week, so what's actually happening during the week and what's happening for all of us during the week, and have a bit of a chat, and also catch up on what we're reading. So if you want book reviews, find out what I'm reading before bed, kind of like in coffee shops, and which novels I'm really enjoying or not enjoying, go check us out at _knitted_wardrobe. And Mondays is our day together, most Mondays. So for example, when I'm in Cornwall, I tend not to. That tends to be time out. I'm usually travelling on a Monday. But yeah, it'd be great to catch up then. But I hope you've had a great time here today. Thank you for joining us for a bit of a longer one than normal. But yes, may your needles always bring you joy. May your frogging be very rare. And I look forward to being with you here on the sofa with your hot cold beverage next time on the Knitted Wardrobe. Take care, guys. Enjoy your knitting. Bye.